For this tutorial series, I'm going to show you the workflow I use to turn a highly detailed SketchUp model into coordinated Vectorworks documentation for DA, CDC, and construction drawing sets. I was initially prompted to create a template for the company Campbell Architecture, who do beautiful designs in Sydney. They had a particular brief where they like to model in SketchUp, but then find they have to rebuild the whole thing in Vectorworks after concept design stage. And they were wondering if there was a way to avoid that. And that's when I came in. For these series of videos, I'm going to show you the workflow I use to turn a detailed SketchUp model into coordinated Vectorworks documentation. We'll cover what imports cleanly, what doesn't, how to prepare your SketchUp model before export, and how to organize classes and layers in Vectorworks. Then I'll show you how to avoid the common issues that cost hours later in the documentation phase. I'm going to be teaching from my template off the bat, which you can find out more on my website. Although I'm using my template, I'm still going to explain everything I go through as though you're a beginner and you've never seen the software before. There's some things I'll probably take for granted, so feel free to ask any questions for clarification in the comments section. That engagement's very important, and absolutely subscribe, hit the ringy ding bell button because you know how things are, competing with a million other Jonathans in this economy of YouTube tutorials. With that said, let's look at how this Vectorworks flow works. So Vectorworks allows you to refer to different documents, and there's a few reasons for that, whether it's about not importing third-party information into your main model resource. For example, they might have classes starting with Z or 1, 2, 3, 4 and every class. And if you import, let's say, a surveyor's model, then you end up with about 1,000 classes you didn't want that you have to manually take back. So how this is working is using all of these different reference files that are pulling information from each other and being able to refer to a standard set of class information. And what I mean by that is how things present themselves. Going into the construction documentation template, there's a page dedicated to the resource style guides. This is just an overview of all the styles that come in the template, and templates are incredibly important. And here's an example. Let's say you're 100 hours into your construction documentation or interior design layout, and you decide that you're not quite happy with how a certain hatch is showing up. I'll show you what I mean by that. So I don't know, let's say there's caulking involved, and I'm going to draw one-to-one right now, but there's caulking involved. Oh, we want to change that. Then all you have to do is, you see that that's tied to a class, and it's in the fill is set to class style. That means, let's say we have a whole bunch of caulking on different pages. All you have to do if you want to change it is update the hatch. And look at that, it all changes right before your eyes. A little bit of a tangent, and you'll see that I will get technical, but fear not, I will make this really, really easy for you as this goes. I'm just talking my head off right now because I'm quite excited to get into it. I'm sure you are too. Anyway, yes, templates, very important for these sorts of reasons. And as I was talking about just earlier, the whole idea of referencing different things together is critical. Let's say you import a model that's 500 megabytes. It's not going to like that particularly, to be honest, but you want to have that on a separate model. Or let's say you're importing a third party's model and they have all these other classes from a different software with names that don't relate to your template. It's very important to keep that separate to the template. And that's why we want to cross-reference their models with your template model. Whoopsies, I just realized I forgot to tick the show my camera box while recording. Maybe that's a good thing. Let me know in the comments. I really would appreciate any feedback as we go along. Any questions, any concerns, let me know. Anyway, where was I? Okay, so site analysis plan, I just want to say real quick that this template was originally featuring an actual design, but for intellectual property reasons and privacy concerns, I can't show that actual design, but the footprint or the foundations you need for this template are working all the same. And I'll give you a quick example of something of how this works. Let's say, another tangent, here we go. I want to hype it up. Let's say we want to update this street name. So let's say it's 245. It's a symbol, which means if I go to my elevations, that symbol particularly updates itself across all my other drawings that it's been set up on, which is just a really nice thing. And that would carry across all other drawings where you put that sort of symbol in, that's fun. Okay, so then we have, this is DA still. You have roof and concept, stormwater, demolition plan, that's more 2D line works. Then for the plans, we have these kinds of symbols. It's kind of hard to imagine the final output because again, I unfortunately couldn't use the design this is based on, which is fair enough. But you know, it has everything you need, and when you fill in the information for your needs, it would all look quite consistent and nice. And going back to things being replicated, or the need not to replicate things as things change. Let's say we have this existing FFL marker. You see how that number changes with the height line? That's quite useful. So I updated here. You have that weird 504. Well, look at that. Now this has a 504 in it too. So everything is cross-linked to each other, even in the document, which is quite a handy thing to do. That will save a lot of time as you go. And then we have plans and shadow diagram with a standard set. If you don't like how it looks, you can always change it later. I might make a meme of myself in saying that there's a class for that. But let's say there's, I don't actually know what class I have that under. There might not be a class for that. There'll be a hatch for that. See, it's in no class. Okay, so it's in hatch shadow. So if you wanted to update that presentation for whatever reason, it means you'll have to go to hatches and type in shadow. We'll get there real quick. Okay, I have 2 project files open right now. Let's say we don't like the background fill. Look at that, we'll make it Aussie gold. And boom, changes across everything. I think I proved the point. Next, we're going to look at the landscape area calculation. This is a particularly helpful one for DA stage because before it was like pie in the sky sort of figures. You can make it quite precise, or you can fudge the numbers if you really want to. Let's be honest. We all know people do it. It's no secret. Anyway, this can give you the precise numbers if you really, really want to do things by the book, which is quite helpful. And that's because they are linked directly to classes. So this is pulling information from those classes, typically the total square meter area of something. So if you draw it, it will pick that information up and apply it. And I'll show you what that looks like real quick. So the template comes with all of this information. I'm not going to play around with it too much. But let's say for site area, we're actually using the boundary. If I can get a hold of it. Site boundary, here we go. So I'm going to draw a site boundary. It's because I'm in the wrong class, aren't I? Site boundary major. I'm just going to do create similar object. And now that's drawing as a site boundary major. So that's going to add about 2,100 square meters to the calculation, which will change the calculation significantly. I like this one. It calculates floor space ratio. Some councils find that important. And then, yeah, it just plugs all that information in for you. And you can prove your case pretty quickly if you want consistency. And let's say the design changes a bit, all you have to do is change that information, update, and done. You don't have to recalculate anything, which is quite helpful. It's all linked to those classes. And then we have the typical view. You know what, some people prefer to make renders in other softwares. You can always plonk it in. Otherwise, this template comes with a 3D perspective style in a realistic setting. But typically for DA, the more realistic, the worse outcome you have. So I'm leaving it up to whatever style that you would prefer to set up and create. And that uses styles as well, which is something I'll explain more. So that's DA in a nutshell. Moving on to construction documentation, we have a standard cover page. Also, you can update all of this stylistically. In fact, it's highly encouraged because I'm sure you'll have a different logo, not my logo, not my information. Similar stuff, site plan, demolition. Because you have to do that for DA, you may as well copy paste it across and add any more relevant information. If you have any quick, oh, but I don't like how that looks, well, I'll show you how it comes together. So this is separate to this. This is its own symbol. Let's say we want that to be a square for whatever reason. In not uncorking style, I'll go none. Not uncorking, I'll make that, round it off. And then you'll notice that all the other tags update with it. And sometimes a text style you use might make things look bulkier, heavier. So you might actually want to move the line up and down. Guess what? It caters for that as well. So then suddenly you don't have to go back to every single thing and manually copy paste a style, which is just a nice touch, which I think would be appreciated by many. Part of this whole system that would involve familiarizing yourself with all the classes and the layers, but it will start making more sense to you as we get into it, as I show you how it all happens. And there's always sometimes instances where the template is only a template and you might have to do something a little differently. For example, I recently had to do that for door window schedules because this building had multiple overlapping doors and windows from different elevation planes, but it still worked flawlessly, might I say. It comes with a concrete set out with a particular style. Again, this is all based on a real professional practice and their needs, so it's going to work accordingly to that. We have elevations, sections. When you put in an actual SketchUp model into Vectorworks, it's funny, the sections and elevations, if you model it nicely, they look really good in the Vectorworks elevation renders. Even the 3Ds look really good. It gets tricky when you don't model the SketchUp precisely how you want it to be, just visually, because you'll end up with lines in places where you probably don't want them to show. So you do have to be quite pedantic in SketchUp when you're doing it this way, at least for using 3D. I'm not sure I explained this part yet, but it's using SketchUp's 3D model as a 2D trace template for your documentation. And I think that will make more sense when I show you an example. Then we have sections, and as you fill in more section information based on the reference 3D model of the SketchUp model, I hope that's making sense, I'm sure it is. I'll just show you how that comes out looking. So you can arrange this however you want, by the way. Again, it's just a template. But let's say I want to draw a wall, or a floor in this case. My template has a folder. So let's say where did it go? Floor styles. Let's say I want to draw this kind of floating style, and all this comes with the template as well. And it shows with the waterproofing and whatnot, whatever you need. I keep going to the wrong thing. And then we have another floor with carpet. Okay, up above. There you go, carpet. Again, let's say this is looking really far, because it is. You see, that's showing nicely, but maybe we don't need to show all of that finer detail. All I have to do is go into classes. I'm going to type in detail to get an overview of all the detail information showing right now. And I don't think we need to see waterproof membranes, so I'm going to turn that off. And now the drawing looks a little bit less murky. We don't need that finer information, or even carpet, let's say. There. And then as you get closer, you can start revealing that sort of information. But that's the power of this template. I'll go into the window door schedule as we go through this, because there is a lot to go through and follow along with, all the steps and processes. But there are a few ways you can go about this. That's all I can say right now. Same with the door, it's the same system. Same process with the screen. You end up either tracing over it or even making a live render of surface, which is what is happening here. This is actually a live viewport of the model, which is pretty nice. And again, like you can see, the SketchUp model looks really nice in Vectorworks. We have balustrades, wall types. We were just looking at that briefly, but I have set up a bunch of wall types, and of course you'll probably want to annotate what each thing is, and this is just giving an indication of wall types you might use in your project. I mean, there's an infinite variation of wall types, and we'll also look in this series at different ways to go about creating these wall types. But wall styles are a really good way to quickly update information and standardize things so that you don't have to draw every 2D component. And I use this in a 2D sense, not a 3D, because Vectorworks does allow for 3D, but in this template, it's all about using 2D information as though it's 3D. We come up with the electrical, and that has all its standards, and we'll go into that. We have RCP, that's all set up. And notice between these, some information stays the same, but it might move location. However, because these are symbols, if I wanted to change studio to bedroom, I only update it once and it would reflect in everything. I really want to make sense of this symbol system that this template is enforcing. And then we have the mechanical and services. Have a nice look at it. That's what your starting point is, if you want to plonk them in. But if you have your own style, you can always change it as you go. Then we have a few pages that are doing the standard thingy. Okay, next up, we have an interior elevation. This is going to give you an impression of elevations prepared for Campbell architecture. You can go black and white with a lot of detail, and that's pulling information from the condoc model. Keep in mind, this is an interior elevation. It's a different Vectorworks file, but it's pulling that information from these references. This Vectorworks file is solely for wet areas or interior elevations. The reason being is that they do take up a lot of space, and they will slow down an ordinary Vectorworks file because this is rendering at 300 dpi. And that's why we have a separate joinery file. The joinery is doing a lot. It's also referencing. Remember, we were talking about referencing. There is a reference model for the joinery specifically, but I deleted it because that was taking up 100 megabytes. So also intellectual property from Campbell Architecture. It's part of a kitchen design they did. This page is demonstrating how it can look. It's using a lot of different Vectorworks capabilities to be able to create this. I didn't have to draw those fills, is what I'm saying. And that's really nice. The only hatch I added was this, and you can customize, they call them tiles in Vectorworks, and that's just how things are going to present in a 2D surface, if you want to do it that way. And then you can generate 3D images directly from Vectorworks, or you can bring them in, reference them in. I'd recommend from SketchUp if you prefer how that looks in SketchUp. It's totally free will. You can do it a few ways and it will still have a really nice outcome. And then when it comes to the styling of the opening and closings of doors, the under over, they are all referencing back to the condoc model. I'm going to open up the resource manager, and I'm sure if you've never looked at Vectorworks before and you're trying to follow along, you're probably really confused right now, but bear with me. The next set of videos are going to start from square one, and I'm going to explain everything as best as I can. Right now, it's just an overview. It's just an overview if you're considering investing a lot of your time into following along with these and potentially purchasing my template. Yes, we were looking at this resource manager. If I go to all resources, we're going to see all the resources this comes with. We just looked at the 2D floor styles, so I don't need to go into that. DA hatches is similar. If you're drawing just basic things for DA, you can do that. Or if you want to make particular wall and floor styles for DA using these hatches, the colors are already there for you to start. You will eventually need to do detailed profiles, and I would recommend turning those into symbols as well as you go. Now, drawing label styles, these become very useful later down the track. I'll go into that. Heliodon's standard symbol that comes with Vectorworks. We have legends, North Point's pretty standard stuff as well. The notes, this alone is going to save you so much time. We come with standard finishes. You can always change abbreviations or whatnot. There are a lot of room names to come with it. You'll probably find one that I didn't think of. Let's say you want to name every room in French to sound fancy. That happens. Then for services, we have the electrical, hydraulic, plumbing, lighting, mechanical. That's all ready to go. The tags go up to 10. For larger houses, you might find they have more than 10 windows or 10 doors, and then that's when you have to start adding more, which is quite a simple process. We'll go into that. Joinery tags. This is for when you're, maybe I have an example. For construction documentation, you might have a bit of joinery there and you want to tag it. So then you give it that means 1 joinery 01, at least in this office. It might be different somewhere else. And then that refers back to a joinery number. So you know that it's 4J01, or let's say this was level 1. It would be 1J01, but this is on level 4. So that's how that works. And that's all referenced. So you end up with a bunch of standard joinery tags, wall tags. If you do it that way, you can do it. You can use it and then draw arrows. Then we have reference marker styles. These are all the different kinds of reference markers I personally need. And over the years, I've been working for different architects. So I just figured this way gets there the best. And that'll all make sense. Rendering styles, I haven't put much in because I'm sure there are plenty of rendering styles out there and everybody has their own preference, and that's totally fine. Save views, it's simple. I just have one for export and level 1 plan. You can use it differently, but all this is you're telling, let's say I've been playing around with the model and I only have the none class activated for whatever reason. Where might I find an example? Maybe on the cover page. No. I'll put this on a different class just for now, so whatever, doesn't matter. And let's say I decide, okay, it's time to export, but that one class isn't showing. What I want to do is go save views, export, and now it's going to show me everything. It's going to turn on everything except for non-plot, which you don't want to show. That's just there as a reference, and you might have a class like set out, which you also wouldn't want to show. Scale bars, pretty self-explanatory. The section elevation line styles are pretty standard. They are created when you want to create an elevation or a section marker, but nobody sees them, so they're not particularly important stylistically. Sketch styles, I don't know. Now, text styles, these are one of those things that are pretty important. Again, reinforcing why templates are the thing to do, absolutely. So I've set up all these standard text styles. We can always change it as we go, but we'll start there. This is going to prove the point that I proved twice already, I believe, but let's say we want it to go to 15 points and we want it to be in a different style. It's going to update that. You see? It did it. So you can change just about anything and everything stylistically to your office's requirements or your personal university standards, or whatever it is. Then tiles, I think I spoke about that briefly, but these are things that you can edit to create a nice 2D impression. I've made a couple of things. Most importantly was for the DIN cell hatch. If you know what DIN cell is, you want to see those kinds of planes without overloading Vectorworks' system, because if you wanted to physically draw in all those circles, you don't have to. No one's going to see it. You just need something to represent. And then the title block styles. I've only made 3. I don't really think you need much more than that, but if you want to get fancy or technical, or you have a bunch of different page styles, then you will have to make more. These work as symbols as well. The reason for that is so if you change something once, you only have to change it once, rather than I've seen some people just have no idea about the styles and how that works. If you don't set it up, then you'll find you have to go to every single drawing if you make a change and update it individually. And I'll give you an example. So I've double clicked it. I'm going to go to tile block layout. Then let's say, oh no, that's not my symbol. I don't work for Intelligent Design Studio. I can get rid of them and replace it with my logo. And you'll find, okay, it's disappeared here. Has it disappeared everywhere else? Yes, amazing. But be wary, because that is a different type of style to this. So you'll have to carry that kind of stuff across, and it's, that's it. Let's look at the folder structure itself. We have 2 folders, one for model, one for sheet. The model is about converting your SketchUp information into Vectorworks ready models. That's all it really is, and you want to keep things a little bit separate. This template also comes with my series of shortcuts, but you're more than welcome to use your own. Anyway, it's going to come with industry standard sort of layouts, formats. You're going to get current PDFs, joinery. It's going to have stuff that if you're a working person, you might want to use. Working folders, that's if you're in an office and multiple people are doing things, they might want to have individual folders, or they might just want to keep it on the desktop. Backups, very important, versus Vectorworks backups as it goes. The difference is I recommend every day just make a copy with your project date, save the last days in there, and keep it for a few weeks. You never know when it might come in handy because mistakes happen, accidents happen. It's just a process I highly recommend. Then we have all the projects: condoc, interior elevation, joinery, and survey, which is typically done by somebody else, but we want to keep that away from our actual project. That wraps up the overview of my Vectorworks template and workflow rationale. For future videos, I will demonstrate how to use my template for a real project. If there's a particular part of the template or general Vectorworks process you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comment section below. If you found this video useful, please consider giving it a like and subscribing so you don't miss upcoming videos. I thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.